Good evening, darling. I got the following anonymous question which says, had you been involved in the political spheres of the late 18th century America, would you be a Federalist or Democratic Republican? Well, darling, I think a lot of that sort of depends on where I would have been living and sort of what my profession was. I think if I was a plantation owner, obviously I'm not going to be a Federalist because I would be losing a lot of my power. Um, and I would be much more for having really strong state rights because I would have a lot of power, obviously, in my local area, and I'd want to sort of hold on to that. Whereas if I was sort of a merchant in the north or something like that, of course I'd want federal power so that everything would be equal. The other thing is, of course, you know, a lot of what Federalists wanted was to sort of establish, you know, a US national bank, and a lot of people sort of thought that was weak, so it really sort of would depend on what I thought of the way the US as a young nation was really doing, and I think it's really difficult to answer without sort of choosing one or the other, but just based off of sort of whether I'm more in favor of states' rights versus a federal government. Well, I mean, you know, owning. Let me take that back. Let me talk about my personal experience now. So, I would say, as someone who is in charge of a large group of people, I would say I would probably be more of a Federalist in that respect because, of course, you know, I function similarly enough, you know, being a monarch to what a president would have, and so I would want to continue to retain my power and to make sure everyone was sort of equal as far as that's concerned. But at the same point, if it was sort of, if the state was my kingdom right now, for instance, then, you know, I wouldn't want someone like Galadriel, for instance, coming over and telling me that we have to be equal and that she can decide just as well how to rule my lands as I can, because of course that just isn't true. So, you know, it's a very tough question, darling, and you know, I admit that I'm not sort of up to snuff so well on sort of American history or anything of that sort, but oh gosh, it's so difficult. I mean, I find that if I were to pick one of the two major parties in the US now, I don't think I would sort of go for... No, I'm going to stop there. You know, it's best not to bring politics into this. I think it's best just to say it would really depend on sort of what the parallels would be, or sort of where I would be located, what my position would be. And I'm just going to end it there because I think politics is a very difficult and highly charged debate, and I don't need to upset anyone tonight. I think I'll just drink instead. So cheers, darling, and ta-ta.